The first thing my ex-husband saw when he walked into that courtroom was me smiling. Not crying, not begging, not broken, smiling. And the look on his face changed so fast it almost made the entire nightmare worth it. Because for 8 months straight, that man had done everything possible to destroy me. He took the house, the savings, most of the furniture, and even tried to turn our own friends and family against me during the divorce. He walked around acting like he had won some kind of championship. Like ruining 20 years of marriage was just another business deal he had successfully closed. But what he didn't know was that while he was busy humiliating me in public and showing off his new 26-year-old girlfriend online, I was quietly planning something that would completely flip his life upside down. And honestly, I still don't know if what I did makes me a terrible person or not. So tell me. If someone destroyed your entire life, would you just walk away quietly? Or would you make sure they felt every ounce of pain they caused you? I'm 39 years old now, but when all of this started, I was 37 and completely convinced I had the perfect marriage. I know people say that all the time before disaster hits, but I genuinely believed it. My ex-husband Daniel and I met when I was 19. He was charming in that dangerous kind of way that makes you ignore red flags because you think confidence equals strength. He used to bring me coffee before my college classes and leave little notes in my textbooks. He made me laugh constantly. And when you're young, attention like that feels like love. We got married when I was 23. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. We bought a small house together, worked hard, built a life, and eventually had our daughter Emma. For years, I thought we were solid. Sure, we fought sometimes, but what marriage does. He worked long hours in finance, and I eventually left my marketing career to focus more on raising Emma after she was born. That decision would later become the biggest mistake of my life. Because once you stop earning your own money, some people stop seeing you as a partner and start seeing you as dependent. At first, Daniel never acted that way. He'd tell people proudly that I was the reason our family worked so well. He'd brag about my cooking, my parenting, my support. But slowly over the years, things changed in ways I didn't even notice until it was too late. He became colder, more distant. Every conversation felt rushed. He stopped touching me randomly. Stopped asking how my day was. Stopped looking at me the way husbands are supposed to look at their wives. I blamed stress, work, life. I kept telling myself marriages go through phases. I didn't realize he had already emotionally checked out years earlier. The first real crack happened during our anniversary dinner. We were sitting in this expensive restaurant downtown, and I remember trying so hard to reconnect with him. I bought a new dress, got my hair done, tried to recreate the spark we used to have. But the entire dinner he barely looked up from his phone. I finally joked, "Should I just text you instead?" Hoping he'd laugh. Instead he sighed like I was annoying him and said, "Can you not start tonight?" That sentence hit me harder than I can explain, because suddenly I realized I wasn't his peace anymore. I was his burden. A few months later I found out about Chloe. Of course her name was Chloe. 26 years old, blonde, worked at his office. The kind of woman who posts motivational gym selfies with captions about knowing your worth. I discovered the affair by accident. Daniel had left his Apple Watch charging in the bathroom and messages started appearing while he was downstairs. I still remember my hands shaking as I read them. "I miss you already. Last night was amazing. She suspects anything." I honestly felt my body go numb. It's strange how betrayal works. You expect screaming and dramatic tears, but sometimes your brain just freezes because the pain is too large to process all at once. When I confronted him, he didn't even deny it. That's the part that broke me the most. He looked almost relieved, like he was tired of pretending. He sat there on the edge of our bed and said, "I wasn't going to tell you this way." As if there was a better way to tell your wife you've been cheating on her for over a year. Then he said something I'll never forget. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I deserve to be happy too." I remember laughing, not because it was funny but because I couldn't believe the audacity. As if I had personally imprisoned him. As if I forced him into a miserable life while I sat around enjoying myself. I spent years supporting his career, raising our daughter, managing our home, sacrificing my own ambitions, and suddenly he was acting like the victim. Things got ugly fast after that. Daniel moved out within 2 weeks and immediately started publicly dating Chloe. They posted vacation pictures online before our divorce papers were even finalized. Imagine seeing your husband kissing another woman in Hawaii while you're sitting alone trying to explain to your teenage daughter why her father suddenly stopped coming home. Emma was devastated. She barely spoke to him for months. And instead of trying to repair the relationship, Daniel blamed me for poisoning her against him. Then came the divorce process. If you've never been through one, let me tell you something. You don't really know someone until money gets involved. The man who once promised to love me forever suddenly treated me like an enemy he needed to crush. He hired an aggressive lawyer and fought me on everything, every single thing. He argued over bank accounts, retirement funds, furniture, even family heirlooms. At one point, his lawyer actually suggested I was financially irresponsible because I hadn't worked in years. Years I spent raising his child and supporting his career. The worst part was how smug he became. He genuinely enjoyed winning. Every court hearing felt like a game to him. He'd walk in wearing expensive suits, holding Chloe's hand outside the courthouse like some kind of power move. I started feeling humiliated everywhere I went. Mutual friends stopped calling. Some people sided with him because he controlled the narrative first. He told everyone I was unstable, bitter, difficult. And the scary thing is, if someone repeats a lie confidently enough, people start believing it. Financially, I was drowning. I had to move into a tiny apartment because Daniel got the house temporarily during proceedings. I cried the first night there because it didn't even feel real. 20 years of marriage reduced to a one-bedroom apartment with thin walls and broken blinds. Meanwhile, Daniel and Chloe were posting wine-tasting weekends online like they were starring in a romantic comedy. Then one night, everything changed. I was looking through old paperwork trying to organize financial documents for court when I noticed something strange. Several transfers from Daniel's business account didn't match the records he submitted. At first I thought it was a mistake, but the more I looked, the more inconsistencies I found. Missing funds, hidden accounts, transfers routed through shell companies. My stomach dropped. Daniel wasn't just trying to win the divorce, he was hiding assets illegally. I almost ignored it, seriously. Part of me was exhausted and wanted the entire nightmare over with, but then I remembered every cruel thing he had done, every humiliating comment, every time he treated me like I was worthless because I trusted him, and something inside me snapped. I hired a forensic accountant using money borrowed from my sister. Quietly, secretly. For weeks we dug through years of financial records. What we uncovered was insane. Daniel had hidden hundreds of thousands of dollars during the divorce process. Not only that, but there were questionable transactions connected to his company that could potentially trigger a full investigation. That's when I faced the biggest decision of my life, because technically I could have confronted him privately. I could have used the information to negotiate quietly and move on. But after everything he did to me, part of me wanted him to feel exposed the same way he exposed me. I wanted him to experience public humiliation. I wanted him to know what it felt like to lose control. So that's the situation I was in, and honestly, I still wonder what other people would have done. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and think about it. If your partner cheated on you, took your home, lied in court, humiliated you publicly, and tried to leave you with nothing after 20 years together, would you take the high road? Or would you finally fight back? Because what I did next changed both of our lives forever. The final divorce hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning. Daniel arrived looking ridiculously confident. Chloe was there too, sitting in the hallway in this tight white dress like she was attending an award show instead of a legal proceeding. I remember seeing them laughing together and feeling weirdly calm. Not angry anymore, calm, because for the first time in months I knew something they didn't. When the hearing started, Daniel's lawyer began presenting their final arguments about asset division. Same arrogant tone, same attempts to paint me as emotional and financially incompetent. Then my lawyer stood up and requested permission to introduce new financial evidence. I will never forget Daniel's face in that moment. At first he looked confused, then irritated, then nervous. The forensic accountant walked the court through everything: hidden transfers, undisclosed accounts, suspicious transactions, missing disclosures, every single lie laid out piece by piece in front of the judge. Daniel kept interrupting, insisting there had been misunderstandings, accounting errors, miscommunications, but the evidence was overwhelming. And then came the moment that truly destroyed him. The judge asked him directly if he knowingly hid assets during the divorce proceedings. Daniel hesitated, just for a second, but that second told everyone everything. The courtroom went silent. His own lawyer looked horrified. Chloe literally stared at him like she suddenly realized she didn't actually know the man she was dating. The judge was furious, absolutely furious, not just because of the hidden money but because courts hate dishonesty. By the end of that hearing, everything changed. The asset division was re-evaluated completely. I received a significantly larger settlement. Daniel was ordered to pay additional penalties and legal fees. And because the financial discrepancies could potentially involve larger legal issues, separate investigations were recommended. But honestly, the money wasn't even the best part. The best part was watching his image collapse. Within weeks, rumors spread through his company. Friends who abandoned me suddenly started calling again after learning the truth. Chloe disappeared almost immediately. Apparently dating a successful married executive is exciting until you realize he might be a lying fraud. Daniel tried contacting me constantly after that, at first angry messages, then desperate ones. He accused me of ruining his life. Imagine that. The man who cheated, lied, manipulated, and tried to financially destroy me was now calling himself the victim, because I exposed the truth. One voicemail especially stuck with me. He said, "You could have handled this privately." I actually laughed out loud hearing that, because where was that mercy when he publicly humiliated me? Where was that compassion when he flaunted his affair online before our marriage was even legally over? The fallout kept getting worse for him. His company quietly pushed him out months later. Emma refused to speak to him for nearly a year. And for the first time in decades, he had to face consequences he couldn't manipulate his way out of. Meanwhile, my life slowly started improving, not instantly. Healing doesn't work like movies. I still cried sometimes. I still felt embarrassed about everything that happened. But little by little, I started rebuilding myself. I went back into marketing. I started therapy. I made new friends, real friends. And the strangest part, I realized I had spent years shrinking myself inside that marriage without even noticing. One afternoon, Emma and I were unpacking boxes in my new townhouse, the one I bought with part of the settlement, and she hugged me out of nowhere and said, "Mom, I think this is the happiest I've seen you in years." That sentence broke my heart and healed it at the same time, because she was right. I had spent so long trying to save a marriage that was already dead, that I forgot who I was outside of it. About a year later, Daniel showed up unexpectedly at Emma's birthday dinner. He looked older, tired, smaller somehow. Chloe was long gone by then. His expensive suits were replaced with wrinkled button-down shirts, and for the first time since our divorce started, he actually looked ashamed. At one point, he pulled me aside quietly and said, "Did you ever love me at all?" I stared at him for a second because I genuinely couldn't believe the question. Then I told him the truth. I said, "I loved you enough to give you 20 years of my life. You just didn't value it until you lost it." He didn't say anything after that. And honestly, neither of us needed to. The craziest part of all this is that I used to think revenge meant screaming, destroying things, or making someone suffer dramatically. But real revenge is different. Real revenge is surviving. It's rebuilding. It's refusing to let someone else's betrayal define the rest of your life. Yes, exposing Daniel felt satisfying. I won't pretend it didn't. But the best outcome wasn't watching him fall apart. It was realizing I could still build a future without him. If there's one thing I learned from this entire disaster, it's that people will show you exactly who they are once they think you've lost your power. Daniel thought because I stayed home to raise our daughter, I was weak. He thought I'd quietly accept humiliation because I was scared of starting over. He underestimated me completely, and maybe that was his biggest mistake. So no, I don't regret what I did, not anymore, because the truth is I didn't ruin his life. His own choices did that. I just stopped protecting him from the consequences. And if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, I hope you remember this. Losing someone who disrespects you is not a loss. Sometimes the worst moments of your life are actually the beginning of something better. If you were on my side after hearing this whole story, make sure to like this video. And if you want more crazy stories about betrayal, revenge, and karma catching up to people, subscribe to the channel because there are plenty more coming. I also really want to know your opinion, so tell me honestly in the comments, did I go too far, or did Daniel get exactly what he deserved? Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.